Well, my name is Keen Healy. I'm a managing consultant here, managing around workforce optimization, the WFO suite, with Verint specifically. I've been with Spar Solutions for about 2 years now. Have an extensive background in workforce optimization with roughly 10 years at Nice Systems. I've worked many years in a call center environment in both workforce management and the QMA, the rest of the WFO suite. And then also on the call here, we have Matt Brewer. Matt, would you like to take a minute and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Thanks, Keen. I appreciate it. As Keen said, my name is Matt Brewer. I am a workforce management expert, solutions architect here at Nice Systems, CX1. I have about 12, 15 years of experience within the WFM realm. I started out doing workforce management at Nationwide Insurance. Probably just like all of us, kind of got our start, right, using spreadsheets, using the old Excel spreadsheets and just seeing what the incoming volume is and how long it typically takes to handle each piece of work, and coming up with some staffing plans just off some Excel spreadsheets. From there, I joined Nice Systems as a trainer for IEX. I did that for about 2 to 3 years, and then I joined what was called InContact at the time. It is now CX1, which is a member of the Nice family. And that's where I worked on IEX as well as their new WFM system, CX1. And I worked with a lot of great individuals over there. One gentleman was named Keen Healy as well. So yeah, a lot of the same background as you, Keen. Just working in WFO for about the past 15 years or so.
Well, thanks for joining the call today, Matt. Today, let's talk a little bit about workforce management in general. So workforce management is quite a large product, and it covers a wide range of processes and tools itself. Could you do me a favor and just start in your own words by explaining what workforce management really is and what it entails, and also go into a little bit of detail here on the industry itself and how essential it is in today's call centers and work environments?
Sure, that's a great question, Keen. Workforce management today seems to really incorporate a variety of different, if you would, systems. I'll call them systems, right? From quality management, QM, often as it's said, workforce management, to any sort of call monitoring, any sort of system that's going to just optimize the performance of each agent. Okay, and the performance of the call center. I obviously have a strong background in workforce management, so I'm biased when I say, workforce management systems are kind of the key driver of, any sort of WFO system that companies may have. And it's real simple. I tend to just think, what's the purpose of a WFM system? Well, it's to get your agents scheduled when they need to be scheduled. And ultimately what that comes down to is for companies making sure that they are spending their money wisely. We all know that salaries are the largest, if you would, expenses for companies. So understanding when you need those agents, right? When you need those agents based upon your customer trends. And then as well, the goals of every company is to provide the best customer service. And so what WFM is going to do, along with these other products within the WFO suites, is give you the tools necessary to develop and schedule your agents to provide the strongest customer service that companies have available to them.
In your experience, Matt, what are some of the important benefits that someone can expect when implementing an effective workforce management strategy? And in your opinion, what can you do to help align their staffing for these new goals in this new process?
Sure. From my experience, anytime a customer is implementing a workforce, a WFO system for the very first time, or even upgrading their WFO systems to something maybe a little bit more robust. I think the most important thing that they need to understand is the quality of information that they're going to see available to them. They're going to hopefully get more accurate information on call volumes, more accurate information on handling time. Trends is a big one. They're gonna actually be able to see, what people call seasonality, right? Seasonality, month over the month trends, year over the year trends, even detailed such as week by week trends within the month. Okay, so just the variety of in-depth information that they're going to have available to them, I think, is going to be really a game changer for them. And ultimately, what that's going to allow them to do is take that information and make more educated decisions on their staffing, on their KPIs, any decision that's going to drive their ultimate performance of their call center to be able to hit their customer service goals.
Out of curiosity, when you deal with some of these customers that are transitioning from spreadsheets over to a really good tool, no matter what that tool is, how receptive are they to this new change? And then just from discussions that you've had with some of these industries or these businesses that you have helped transition, what is the feeling that they're getting from employees now that you're tracking all of that information that you just discussed?
To me, that comes back to a culture. That's a culture question, right? And I can tell you, the companies that are most successful in implementing workforce management strategies have good change management strategies, okay? Good change management practices. Because the ones that are most successful when they're moving from spreadsheets to WFO systems, IEX, for example, Verint, for example, they need to understand the changes that are going to occur. And like I just talked about with the previous question, the more detailed information that is going to be available to them. So there may be practices such as how they normally schedule their agents or team meetings, that may change. And so having an effective change management strategy, having leadership buy-in is going to be huge for these companies, especially when they are moving from something as simple as a spreadsheet to a WFM, a WFO system, okay? So that is probably what I would say the number one factor that companies need to have to make these changes successful for them.
So Matt, workforce management includes many moving parts like forecasting and scheduling, compliance, reporting, and most important in my book is real-time adherence and keeping people in line. What do you think the most challenging part is for organizations to get it right? And why do you think that that's the most challenging?
I'm going to answer with forecasting, Keen. And in many elements, it's the easiest thing to get right, but it's also the most difficult, okay? And the reason why sometimes it's the most challenging thing to get right is because individuals, especially if they are new to workforce management, if they're new to any sort of, if they're moving from spreadsheets oftentimes, right? I think they want to just assume with the push of a few buttons, they're going to get an accurate forecast. And while that's true, hopefully in most cases, anytime you implement any sort of a new WFO system, specifically a workforce management system, there are so many elements to a forecasting algorithm, okay? I think at one point within NICE systems, there was 42, 52 different elements that could sometimes go into a forecasting algorithm, okay? That's a lot, right? And I think oftentimes people just want to hit a button and get an accurate forecast, and it's not going to work like that, okay? We had a partner, right? We had a partner named Mark Verint when we worked together at NICE Systems. And Mark gave a great analogy one time, right? Anymore, we get on an airplane and we take off, and that airplane's put on autopilot. but you still want that pilot in the cab just in case something comes up or just in case they see anything that maybe is not normal. And that's the key with forecasting, right? 90% of the time, pressing a few buttons will get you an accurate forecast. But the key on being successful, and the reason I say forecasting is often the most important and the most difficult to kind of grasp, is you have to understand what's happening in your call center and what you expect to happen with this forecast, okay? So you got to know your trends, right? You got to be familiar with your trends. You got to understand what your history is, and you got to understand the time period and what is occurring within your business and what you want that forecast to look like. And so again, I would say that forecasting is often one of the most, if you would, important pieces and challenging pieces for companies that are implementing a workforce management strategy, because there is still that human element that you need to be aware of and you need to be cognizant of to be successful.
Definitely. And just to follow up on that a little bit, Matt, there are definitely a cause and effect if you miss that forecasting goal that you want to get. If you miss it on one end and you're overstaffed and you have people sitting around and not working, that can cause some challenges. But on the other side of that, if you miss that forecast as well and you're understaffed and your employees are overworked, that causes some challenges to your staffing as well. From your experience, can you speak a little bit to that and how important this all rolls together?
Absolutely. So, we'll go back to what's the purpose of a workforce management system? It's to get the agents you need when you need them, right? It's to get the agents you need when you need them. So that's why you say, what's the most difficult part to grasp? Scheduling to me is really not as difficult. It's really just about having your agents available, and the system should get them scheduled based upon when they're needed, based upon getting an accurate forecast developed. Okay. And you stated it, Keen, you get your forecast wrong. That could lead to overstaffing. It could also lead to understaffing. Okay. Ultimately, both of those are going to cost you money, and both of those are going to potentially lead to lower employee engagement scores. So, understanding the cause and effect of good forecasting accuracy and the downstream effects it has on scheduling is extremely important.
So Matt, we've worked in this industry for many, many years, and throughout history, it's all been brick or mortar buildings out there. So call centers, have seats inside their building. They seat 500 people or whatever that number is, and they expect them to come in and go to work every day. A few years ago, we had a pandemic that hit us, COVID. And in a matter of a day or two, everybody had to switch that philosophy of a brick and mortar and take all of their agents and turn them into remote agents to be able to handle their workforce. Since then, organizations have grown and have kind of switched over into more of a hybrid work model out there, and allowing their agents to work remote for a few days and then come into the office to keep those relationships going. From your experience, what challenges have you seen with customers when it comes to forecasting and scheduling and monitoring their productivity across this new hybrid model or remote model that you've seen out there?
Sure. As it relates to the COVID and the pandemic that we had about almost 5 years ago at this point, right? To be honest, Keen, when it became, or as it relates to employees and managing employees, we didn't see a ton of change. I didn't have customers getting a hold of us and saying, hey, we're having issues with now how we schedule agents or how we manage agents, okay? We didn't hear a lot of feedback based upon adherence, all right? Obviously there's different perspectives. Hey, if somebody goes and works from home, is there going to be more or less distractions? And how's that going to affect the adherence as it relates to their schedules? Okay. We didn't hear about companies having that many challenges. We still don't hear as it relates to employees in the office or working remotely. We don't hear necessarily as it just truly relates to workforce management, adherence, scheduling. We don't hear companies reporting a lot of challenges between a remote employer and on-site employee. Okay. Forecasting, if we relate truly to the pandemic, right? Forecasting was a big challenge after the pandemic because the depending on the type of business you're in, call volumes either went dramatically up or dramatically down. Okay. And so when a lot of WFM systems in the future, when the world started getting back to normal, all those, if you would, abnormalities in your call volumes were creating challenges when companies went and did forecast, right? Because like I said, either their call volume went dramatically up or it went dramatically down. And in many cases, I had instances where customers were wanting a year, potentially even 2 years worth of data just wiped out of the system because it wasn't reflected of the new trends. So forecasting, at least as it relates to the pandemic, was a little bit more of a challenge. But truly, as we stand today in 2024, getting into 2025, I don't hear many customers say too much as it relates to an on-site employee versus a remote employee as it involves scheduling, RTA, or forecasting. Really, to me, those are issues to be tackled outside of workforce management. I mean, that comes down to employee engagement, and I think you hit on it. How does that stuff relate to your culture and just developing those relationships within your business.
And out of curiosity, Matt, with some of your customers that you had, let's take COVID and then let's take post-COVID. Let's go another year later. You kind of alluded to this a little bit there. From customers that are coming from that time period, what do you typically do with the data that was handled over that COVID period for that year or two, or possibly even 3 years? Because from my experience, that data is, I'm going to call it tainted. It's inaccurate compared to what it was before and what it is now. So how do you handle that with customers and their questions on what they need to do with that from your experience?
Well, as it relates to where we are now, a lot of your WFM systems look back 2 to 3 years to get your trends. So those COVID trends are kind of, if you would, aging out. All right. As it related to, let's answer that question as if it was 2022 or 2023. A lot of times my answer to the customers were, I don't know. It was just a matter of understanding, and I alluded to it so many questions ago, understanding what is happening or what has happened and what you want to happen with your forecast moving forward. Let's face it, even in 2022, there was still talk. Are we heading into another pandemic? Is COVID coming back? Right? At that point, I told a few customers, are you sure you really want us to empty your data right now and empty your historical data? I mean, there's a world where, there were so many questions, right? In society, there were so many questions. So yeah, we could go in and scratch all your data and essentially start new, but what if something happens again, right? So there was just a lot of, the frustrating part, there was just a lot of unknowns then. But just understanding how your forecast algorithms work can help mediate a lot of that, okay? Understanding how the data is affecting your forecast can help mediate that. We were able to sit there with many customers and say, okay, we're not going to get rid of your data, but understand how it's going to affect your forecast going forward, and understand there may be a need to manually adjust that forecast. And that goes back to that analogy I gave about the airplanes on autopilot, right? So the frustrating part about COVID and how it affected workforce management realm for the next so many years was a lot of just, guys, I don't know what the answer is. The only thing I can teach you is how the forecasting works. And it's going to kind of be up to you to understand when you run that forecast and you see the results, is it good or not? Is it good or not based upon what has been happening lately? Now, the best thing, and something we can certainly talk about here in a few, is the implementation of AI forecasting, automatically intelligence forecasting. And that's certainly had a positive impact on the forecasting trends, especially post-COVID.
Okay, as we start talking through this, and we've talked about agents being in a remote environment or hybrid system out there, there's some challenges that come along with that we've talked about a little bit. One thing that I really want to touch on is looking at employee satisfaction in the workplace now, since these changes have been made. For WFM, WFM is out there to help improve some of the employee engagements and help with retention. A lot of that's through some of the things that we've talked about, getting accurate forecasts and stuff like that. Can you speak a little bit, particularly in regards to some of the tools that we haven't talked about in workforce management, like flexible scheduling that are out there, real-time feedback, and then allowing agents to do shift swaps and stuff like that? How important is that to boosting those employee satisfaction scores?
Obviously, it's very important. It's very important. A big trend right now across the U.S., really across the globe, is it comes down to work-life balance, right? Work-life balance. I mean, that's a key term in every industry. You want your employees to have good work-life balance. A happy employee is a productive employee, right? And so different solutions within the workforce management suite really kind of aim at allowing the most effective management of your agents, right? You mentioned it, trading schedules, flexible shifts, being able to sit there and say, hey, I'm running a little bit late today. Can I come in late? All that stuff is becoming more and more available within the workforce management suites. And really, the key on all that is all that stuff's becoming more available because it's being located within phone apps now, okay? Let's face it, we live on our phones, right? We live and we manage our phones. And many WFM systems out there, you can run your workforce management system from your phone. Agents can trade schedules. Agents can do time off. Agents can do schedule changes, right? Hey, I'm running late today. Go ahead and put this on my schedule, and I'll sign up for some makeup time at the end of my shift, right? So they can manage their flexible schedules. They can get those automatically approved, or even, there's still some sort of manual improvement. It can all be done from your phone, right? So really everything that we've talked about, the trades, the managing time off, everything as it relates to employees, even as it relates to employees seeing real time their performance scores, right? A lot of that's now being located and placed within phone apps, and it's doing a tremendous amount of positive effect for employee engagement. So it's a great trend that we're seeing. More and more companies are picking up these phone apps to manage their workforce management and allow agents to essentially control their shifts and control their time off through these different phone apps.
Definitely. I would agree with you. Being able to have that, I mean, everybody's got a phone these days. Everybody's got a smartphone. Being able to utilize these tools directly from your device at any location is just huge. It gives them the empowerment. It empowers these agents to be able to do what they want when they want to out there. Phone apps are great, but right now the trend in the industry and industry-wide right now is AI. So I see a future out there for AI and bringing that into workforce management in general to help with some of these things, to help with forecasting, scheduling, and then identifying key areas for time off. they definitely help enhance the forecasting and scheduling and decision-making process. From what you've seen out there, what is your opinion on the use of AI in the near future, and what do you think the direction is going to be going on that?
Sure. So right now, there's a lot of movement around AI forecasting, right? And it's a feature within IEX WFM, as well as CS1 WFM, the two products that I work for. And what that allows you to do, as much as we talk about how the system, let me take a step back. Most forecasting algorithms out there use a weighted moving average, right? The old weighted moving average of, we're going to look at the most recent trends and weight the weeks more that are recent, and then weight them less as you go back into the history. And we're going to look at those trends to try and come up with an accurate forecast. And it's been kind of the way of the world for decades, is this weighted moving average. But what AI forecasting is going to do is it'll still use weighted moving average, but it's also going to look at other forecasting algorithms, and it's going to look at trends, and it's going to try to pick up what has been happening, and then make a decision on which forecasting algorithm should be used to get you in the most accurate forecast going forward. Okay, a good example of that is as we speak in the spring, maybe weighted moving average, depending on your business, is a great forecasting algorithm to get you an accurate forecast in the spring. But as we move closer to the holidays, as we're sitting right now, there may be a need to have a different forecasting algorithm, and it look back and say, you know what, based upon these trends recently, I don't know that weighted moving average anymore is going to get you the most accurate forecast. I'm going to use this other forecasting algorithm. There's different forecasting algorithms that try to predict, if you would, one-off events, right? Or maybe single-year events. So the development of this AI as it relates to forecasting is kind of a start of a bigger movement. I'm sure there's going to eventually be AI scheduling, right? I mean, we know forecasting ultimately affects scheduling, but there could be a world someday where AI is looking at different trends and understanding, maybe it's better that you schedule people this way, okay? You could argue schedule optimization is a form of AI, but I think people are going to take that even further, right? They're going to take that even further. But yeah, what we're seeing right now is the trend that's really starting in forecasting, and I'm going to assume eventually it's going to move over to scheduling, and obviously move over to change management as the trend for more and more AI is really kind of starting to be developed in the industry.
As we go along with this, and AI starts to do this, there needs to be a way to track this down, and so we can do comparisons to find out how effective that is. When we look at that, there are certain KPIs that you would utilize in WFM to be able to track some of these down and evaluate the success from this. So as far as that goes, when we look at a WFM solution in general, like Verint's workforce management or workforce optimization suite out there, how imperative is it that we utilize these KPIs to track these metrics in real time, and how can we utilize those KPIs that are available across all the platforms out there to measure success?
Sure. Well, I'm a big proponent of one of the most important screens within a WFM system is an intraday screen, right? An intraday screen is going to track your day of performance as well as your past performance. So how well are you guys staffing compared to volumes in AHT? How are you doing as it relates to hitting your service levels? It comes down, how well are you doing forecasting, right? How well is your forecasting system doing compared to what has actually arrived? So really, to me, Keen, that question comes down to just understanding your intraday screen, right? And understanding and utilizing your reports. how are, the intraday screen is going to reflect what is actually happening. So based upon what is actually happening, even as it relates to volumes to agents, how are we doing when we put all of that together? Okay. And obviously to understand the big picture, you got to understand how all that relates together, right? How does adherence relate to, service level performance? How does shrinkage relate to service level performance? How does forecast accuracy relate to service level performance? All of those factors. So to me, understanding your service level goals and then monitoring your intraday screen and looking at all the information that's available, understanding how it relates to each other is one of the most important practices a good WFM team can utilize.
Okay, Matt, I'd like to thank you for the time that you spent with us today. What I'd like is one last question for you is, over the years, you've worked with many numerous customers and helped them become successful throughout time. Is there one particular customer situation that you can think of, or maybe many, where you've been able to take your experience in workforce management and help build them into a successful organization? And what do you think the most important parts of that were throughout that journey?
Sure, Keith. I think we talked about it earlier. The number one thing that companies that are implementing workforce management strategies and new workforce management systems, especially when they're moving from the old Excel spreadsheets, right, is to have good change management skills, good leadership adoption and good change management skills. When you have those organizations, or when you have those features, I should say, within the organizations, the success is going to be a lot more guaranteed. I know recently we had a customer that was doing exactly what we just talked about, moving from Excel spreadsheets to one of our WFM systems that we offer. And hearing the success stories, hearing how they were able to ultimately get more accurate forecasts, do better scheduling, reduce their shrinkage, which ultimately allowed this customer to save just a ton of money on employee expenses. They didn't necessarily downgrade their call center, meaning they weren't able to they didn't lay people off. They came up with more opportunities for those agents, more advancement opportunities. So your high performing agents, they were able to move on to different positions within the organization, all because the WFM systems and the change management skills that the companies used to implement the workforce management systems were successful enough that the cost reduced enough that these agents were able to find other opportunities within the company for advancement. So I think those success stories are ultimately what companies need to consider when deciding to purchase a good WFO system. And a good success story, the success stories that I like to hear, and some that are common, when you have those two features in place, you hear about companies that are able to reduce the expenses by getting better forecast accuracy, more accurate scheduling, able to reduce shrinkage, get a more accurate shrinkage number. So the scheduling and the forecast KPIs, or excuse me, not the forecast KPIs, but the KPIs such as service level goals are able to be met and save companies money. Oftentimes we hear, and some of the best things we hear is how companies take that savings and are able to do more for the agents, create more opportunities for the agents, allow agents to advance their careers, potentially because they're needing less employees within their call center because the forecast and the scheduling has become more accurate. So those are the type of success stories that you like to hear. Those type of stories are, very common. Again, when it comes back to having good change management adoption and good leadership buy-in whenever you're implementing a workforce management system.
And one last question. Since you've been in the industry for so long, if you were starting your own call center business today, would you look at workforce management as an expense that is well worth having? And would you think that expense would help roll into profits over time? Can you give just a little bit of your thought on that?
Oh, 100%. It's, to me, a good workforce management system is a necessity. It's not an option, it's a necessity. Otherwise, in my opinion, you're guessing. So when it comes to staffing, forecast, projections for the year, you're guessing. So the money that you need to invest is well worth it if you're serious about having your call center be successful.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.